Say I'll sound like a hypocrite because I tell people go singularity of focus right now on the one thing. And when people go, well, I don't know what my one thing is. Do I get the position of the CEO? Absolutely. Do I want it? I actually came to the conclusion, no, I don't. I don't. It actually stresses me out. I don't want to walk into these L10 meetings every week and then say, no, guys, I'm sorry, but since I'm Bedros, you can't fire me. You can't chastise me. I can just ask for an extension on my deadline, right? Which then creates a bottleneck for everybody else. And as the business gets more complex, let's create a new process. 300 locations, we added a few more processes in place. 500 locations, added more processes, and then had to get rid of some people because they weren't able to run the complex processes. I could stay awake till 2 a.m, watch TV, goof off, eat bagels, do whatever I want because I was stress eater. I was an emotional and stress eater. I wasn't a good leader. I wouldn't show up to meetings on time, and when I would show up, I was unprepared, and because of that, I would start feeling anxiety, and all that led to a massive panic attack. Chest gets tight, tunnel vision, heart's racing, sweaty palms, both arms are like tingling. And I remember reading somewhere, like in some high school like health class, that like if an arm tingles, you're having a heart attack. So I'm like, fuck, both arms are tingling. This is the big one. This is how I go. So as I stumbled down the staircase, I don't know if it was the fresh air, I don't know if it was the movement. All of a sudden, all these feelings went away and I'm left in a sweaty puddle. I was like, holy shit, I think I just dodged a heart attack. $1 billion company comes with $1 billion headaches, but I'd rather have $1 billion headaches than third world problems, which are, I can't even keep my lights on.
All right, so I am so excited to have Bedros Keuilian sitting in front of me, and you are just literally the epitome of the American dream. I mean, you went through severe trauma as a child that most normal people would never be able to overcome. Your family escaped communism, and you're an immigrant to the United States, and we were just talking offline, and your father came with $200 in his pocket.
Yeah.
With his whole family.
Yep.
And then you went through obviously a childhood of struggled with addiction and food addiction, which we share in common. That's always been my biggest culprit. And then you went on to build multiple multi-$100 million companies. You have the largest fitness franchise globally with approximately 500 franchise locations called Fit Body Boot Camp. You are a speaker, you're a best-selling author on the New York Times bestseller list for your book Man Up, and you're also one of the most renowned business coaches out there. And I know I look up to you so much, and my best friend Maisie's here right now, and she's just been following you for the longest time.
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
But man, you just you've done it all, Bedros. And I respect you so much because you not only demand your highest potential, you actually go claim it. And not only do you do it for yourself, but you do it for other people too. And you push other people to do it. And it's like we have this one life, and so many people play it so safe and they play it so small. And you inspire people to live their best life and create an empire and not sacrifice their family, not sacrifice their health, not sacrifice their sanity, like their mental health, their relationships, and still dream big, push big, take accountability, take responsibility, stop drinking the liquor, stop smoking the weed, stop watching the porn, stop doing all this shit that controls you, and create a beautiful life. And that's everything that I want to do. So I'm really inspired by you, and I'm just really honored to have you.
That. How old are you?
28.
28. Just know that I'm 50. I know I shared that with you before the mic started to roll, but your audience needs to know I'm 50. So between 28 and 50, you will experience stress fractures. Stress fractures are good. You look at stress fractures in a bone, or you look at scar tissue on the human body, it's always the strongest part of that bone or the body. And so to get to where I am and where others like me are at, you don't get there unscathed, just so you know, right? Everything you mentioned, I can check off. But that doesn't mean someone young like you learning that, you want to encounter your own variations and versions of it, because you're about to start demanding even more of yourself. Limits, you don't even know how much risk tolerance it's going to take, how much shit you're going to have to eat, how many decisions you're going to have to make without having even 50% of the information you need to make the right decision. Decisions that you'll make that will cost you hundreds of thousands when you're small, that will cost you millions when you're at my level. I make them often, and those decisions happen. But that's part of the game. And if you can accept that that's what it takes to get on the field from the bleachers, it's a beautiful game. But you're going to walk off the field, sometimes dazed and confused, sometimes limping, and that's okay. That's the game of life. Most people are spectators in the bleachers, and I invite people to get on the field. But I'm also brutally honest in letting them know, you can watch me and others and talk about addictions and abuse and fucked up relationships and this, that, and the other, and then you'll go and create your own variations of it, because to get to this level, there's a lot of sacrifice, risk, decisions that have to be made that some might even call ruthless.
So for somebody like me, I have a dream of building $1 billion empire, and I want to be a billionaire, and I want to serve as many thousands of people as I possibly can.
Good
and
for
I
you.
know my purpose on this earth, and I know that God gave me a gift to create, and I'm a creator. I'm a textbook visionary. And so, for somebody that has it together, that has the vision, that has the discipline, that has the responsibility, and I see it all, Bedros, like I see everything. I see how it needs to happen, how it has to work, who needs to be in place to make it happen. But yet I am so far from that. It's like the tunnel is so long, and I could see it happening in so many different ways. Like there's so many opportunities. I could be successful in so many businesses and in so many decisions. And I almost get like, I'm in this analysis paralysis right now of, I don't know what to focus on, because I have my real estate brokerage and I just launched a debt fund and a lending company, and I see that scaling nationally and having a big exit. But I also see like being a one-stop shop for real estate investors and really having an edge where we help investors find the deal and fund the deal and sell the deal. And if they don't want to do it active, they can passively invest in the deal. I loved your advice on scaling. Do you think that as a textbook entrepreneur, and you're somebody that's involved in multiple businesses, should someone really just dial in and focus on one thing and master that first before they do other things? Or do you think somebody can be successful building and scaling multiple companies at once?
So I'm going to sound like a hypocrite when I say someone can be very successful building and scaling multiple companies at once. However, once you've built your first big empire. And the reason is, when you build your first big business, for me, it was Fit Body Bootcamp, right? I started Fit Body Bootcamp. I went singularity of focus on it, like nothing else mattered. I wanted to start a supplement company and an apparel company a decade and a half ago. But I was like, until I have at least 400 Fit Body Bootcamp locations, singularity of focus. Because I knew that if I could do that, it would give me so much freedom money that I can then buy leaders from my other companies. And so today there's a gentleman named Bryce Henson, one of my mentees from many, many years ago. He's the current CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp. He has a full commitment of Fit Body Bootcamp. I meet with him once a month, and him and his leadership team of Fit Body Bootcamp, and then they do the daily execution. Same with my supplement company. Jeff Rosenquist, he's the VP of it. I meet with him once a week because my supplement company is only 4 years old, so still needs a little more daddy time. So I meet with them once a week instead of once a month, but they go and execute. Fuel Hunt Apparel, now an 8-figure company. When I got on board, they were making approximately $1,500 a day in sales. That was 2 years ago. Today, $25,000, $30,000 a day in sales of apparel. Rash guards for jiu-jitsu, combat shorts, and then just made in America cool t-shirts and stuff. But I share that with you because I had dreams of all of those things, but I had gone singularity of focus. And I say I'll sound like a hypocrite because I tell people, go singularity of focus right now on the one thing. And when people go, well, I don't know what my one thing is, because I'm a visionary, I'm an eagle, right? Cool. Might sound harsh, but I always say, well, if I were to put a gun to your head and make you pick one, what would you pick? Everyone knows the answer. When there's a metaphorical gun to your head, you know the answer. You start with that one, but that doesn't mean we're killing the rest. We're just putting it on pause. You make this one so profitable and so systematized, you put a leader in, and then with the rest, now new companies that I either acquire or start, I start them with leaders in place. I don't figure out what do I need to do to launch. Like, let's say I was going to create a software company. I wouldn't go, what do I need to do to create a software company? I say, who do I need to get to help me bring this vision of a software company to life? If I want to start an automotive company, who, not what do I need to do, right? But I'm at a place where I could deploy my money, hire people and teams and create processes, and then they can execute. So go singularity of focus. When that's giving you enough freedom money, you can start hiring teams and people, and now literally do what I do. I can take equity in as many companies as I want. And even yesterday, I was on a phone call with this dude, and he's like, man, I just want to give you equity in my company. We have 3 partners, but we'll divide it up 4 ways. You'll have 25%. You don't have to buy in, da-da-da. I'm like, actually, I like your industry, but I don't want to be in it. It's in the jiu-jitsu competitive, like combat fighting things, but like I don't want to be in it, because you'll get to a place as you build your personal brand off this one thing, as you build freedom money, as you are known, as you write a book on it, you're the expert about it. Now you have so many people who want to work with you and for you, you can bring all your other visions to life a lot quicker. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Because I love that Who Not How, right?
Yeah.
You've read that book,
Yeah.
right? It's such a great book, and it helped me as I grew my business. But to get to where I got so far, it was just a grind. I was in the weeds of everything, wearing all the hats, and then hiring an assistant, teaching the assistant, hiring an EA, teaching the EA. But I've never been able to have at this point, I haven't had the capital or the capacity or the wherewithal to hire from the top down.
Yeah.
And so, like, for instance, for this new lending company, if I had a gun to my head, it's the lending company, because I see the scalability. I see the EBITDA multiple I could get. I see the freedom that it brings and the work from anywhere and the virtual model and all these things, and the need for asset-based loans. Like, that's never going away. And I hate working with traditional banks myself. So it was filling my own need. But what's got me here is not the lending company. That's a new thing. What got me here was the real estate brokerage. And so it's almost letting go of what got me here to get me there and take the leap of faith into a vision that I haven't actually executed on. How do you find that who? How do you find A players?
That's a really good question. So you're not going to find A players by putting out ads on Indeed and other platforms, right? Because I always say, if someone in an economy like this doesn't have a job, they're not an A level. They're probably B minus C level players. And so you have to, remember I said there's ruthlessness involved at this level, you have to recruit. So if I know, for example, let's say the lending company, you're like, if I had a gun to my head, it's the lending company, but I've got this real estate brokerage that has done well for me, but I know I could still scale it. All right, well, I'm gonna go find a second in command for someone else's thriving real estate company and poach them, offer them an opportunity where they can get mentorship, access to people, maybe equity where they won't be able to get equity there, maybe a future partnership, whatever it might be, but I'm going to recruit. Poaching sounds a little aggressive. You can say recruit. And I've done that for my Fit Body Bootcamp brand. We needed a compliance officer, but we didn't want to groom one from the ground up because it takes some time. Federal Trade Commission oversees franchises. So as a franchisor, I have to constantly communicate with the Federal Trade Commission. That's a pain in the ass. Federal Trade Commission makes franchises have a compliance officer so that we comply with whatever the Federal Trade Commission wants. So rather than trying to groom one and build one from the ground up, I went to some successful franchise brands that I felt were similar to what we do as Fit Body Bootcamp, and through LinkedIn reached out to a whole bunch of people, and several of them showed interest. One of them was a good fit, and we welcomed her on board. And so if you're able to recruit, you can find the who's a lot faster. If you try and build and develop or hire by putting out ads on Indeed or Monster Jobs or whatever, it's going to take a long time because the people that don't have a job right now are the bottom of the barrel. It's just a reality. So I'm going to get a C-level player who's probably burnt out, their heydays are decades behind them, and they're going to talk about what they used to do instead of what they're able to do. I want to recruit from a company that's growing, thriving, and just bring that person here and say, run the play. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. In the real estate brokerage industry, recruiters don't recruit, like recruiting companies that I haven't been able to find ones that recruit them because they're mostly commission based, but that would be, somebody like that in any traditional brokerage structure is 100% commission. So recruiting companies don't. But
right, you would be the one recruiting.
Yeah. So
does that mean, you wouldn't hire a recruiting company. You'd be the one going, all right, who within the 100 miles from here?
Yep.
Right?
And I just reach out directly. Yeah. How do you feel about recruiting companies for other roles to find C-suite executives or to find partners?
I've got a few coaching clients that they've worked for. One of my coaching clients, Ashley Lucas, she has a $22 million weight loss business, and we're in the process of 2 more years and she'll be exiting. She's been with me 3 years now, so she'll have spent 5 years with me and she'll be exiting. Just like me, she's like, look, I'm unemployable. I can't sell this company and then go work for the private equity that buys it, which is why I brought Bryson as my CEO, right? When I go to sell Fit Body Bootcamp, I'm not going to all of a sudden have a job working as the CEO for Fit Body. So I brought Bryson so he could go with the company. And so we're in the process of looking for a second in command for Ashley for PhD weight loss. And we've kissed a lot of toads, but we found a prince and we think he's the guy. So recruiting companies do work, but you're going to have to kiss a lot of toads. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you're relying on them to go find someone from their pool. In their pool, there might be people that they've talked to before, they plugged into here, they quit or didn't pan out there, so now they're going to try and plug them into your company. So whenever possible, I'd rather you go out and do that work. Priscilla has a really good saying. He says, success is found in inefficiencies. And when I heard him say that, we were sitting in a green room at Dan Flashman's event many years ago, and I was like, dude, say that again. He said, success is found in inefficiencies. I said, you're absolutely right. There's some things that are inefficient, like I should probably delegate my assistant to do or second in command, but I need to do it and it's inefficient, but only I could do it to the level that I need and find that right person for that right role. If we're looking for a marketing person or head of sales, my team members can go find it. But if I'm looking for a second in command, I'm going to go find this person. It's very inefficient to do that for me. I don't have a lot of time, nor do I have a lot of patience. But I'm going to go do it because I'm likely going to find the right person. So recruiting companies do work, but 9 out of 10 times, you're going to find the best people for yourself.
You mentioned one time that you realized you had a bad team at some point in your, and I'm sure that's not one time. I'm sure that's multiple times.
Yeah, I'm the king of many times.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about the part of finding those A players, but how do you know if someone really is right for the role and people are in the right seats and are the right players for the team? And like, how do you decipher that, determine that, and adjust for that, and try to put people in the right seats?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I could almost look at my entrepreneurship career now. I'm 26 years in now as an entrepreneur, and I could look at my entrepreneurship career pre-2013 and then post-2013. And it was in 2013 that I learned about EOS, right? Traction, Gino Wickman. And then that same year, Craig Ballantyne, sent me Dan Kennedy's book, Ruthless Management of People and Profits.
I haven't read that one.
Great book. You obviously know who Dan Kennedy is. You have clearly studied direct response. You know this. But Dan Kennedy's Ruthless Management of People and Profits and Wickman's book, Traction, opened my eyes. And once you do the people analyzer, you quickly know whether you got the right seat on the bus or not. And if there's a third book I would recommend in terms of finding the right people, it would be Good to Great by
Jim Collins.
Jim Collins.
I'm reading it right now.
Exactly. Great book. Between those 3 books, you learn one very specific thing. First, the GWC filter. Does this individual that I have in this seat, do they get the position? Do they want the position? And do they have the capacity to perform the position? GWC, right? Now, no more emotions. Now you're not thinking like, well, you know, B and I hang out, we get lunch together, we work out together, we're homies, we're friends, and I think he gets it, he wants it, he has the capacity, I just haven't done a good job training him up. No, forget all that. No emotional connection, because when you're doing EOS, you elevate to a board member, an advisor, instead of the actual role that you have in your company, and you go, what's best for the company? Does Bryce, I got EOS out of my own company, Fit Body Bootcamp, not out as in like you're gone, but I was the CEO, Bryce was my VP. And one day we're sitting in an L10 meeting, level 10 meeting. For your audience who doesn't know, just read the book Traction by Gino Wickman, follow that up by Rocket Fuel, same guy, Gino Wickman, and then install EOS. In fact, I won't even take equity in a company unless part of that deal is that they will start using EOS. And they'll start using Brian Underhill, my EOS implementer, in all the companies that I've taken the equity in, because he's like this fucking savant where EOS implementation is concerned. So anyways, one day we're sitting at a level 10 meeting, which is part of EOS, and Bryce is going through, I'm the visionary, and he's my integrator, using the EOS terms. And he says, going over the rocks, and hey, B, did you get this rock done? No, not done yet. B, did you get that rock done? No, not done yet. And he turned to Brittany, and his second in command, and she kind of gave him a nod, and they had already pre-planned this out. Like, if this happened again, because this was now like the 3rd week of me saying, sorry guys, I need more time to get my rocks done, right? My deadline's in. So he's like, hey B, we want to use a people analyzer on you and see if you're a good fit for the visionary position. I was like, fair enough. I can be open-minded. And when they GWC filtered me, do I get the position of the CEO? Absolutely. Do I want it? I actually came to the conclusion, no, I don't. It actually stresses me out. I don't want to walk into these L10 meetings every week and then say, no, guys, I'm sorry, but since I'm Bedros, you can't fire me. You can't chastise me. I can just ask for an extension on my deadline, right? Which then creates a bottleneck for everybody else. So I had the capacity, I have the C, I have the G, but I didn't have the W. Not anymore, right? Because I got too many things going on. And so Bryce said, I think I have a solution, because you no longer qualify for the visionary seat. I go, what's your solution? He goes, I'll step into visionary position. I was like, all right, wise guy, I could see that. You've been with me for 8 years now. Who's going to be our integrator? And he looks at Brittany. They had already worked it out. And what a beautiful transition it was. And I now sit in what's known as the owner's box, right? And so I just meet with them once a month instead of once a week. I don't have any rocks to move forward. I might have to send a text message to someone high up somewhere, but that's about the extent of my involvement in Fit Body Bootcamp. But I say this because with Traction, you're going to learn the People Analyzer and the GWC filter. With Good to Great, you're going to learn if you have the right person on the bus, but maybe they're in the wrong seat. And then you can put them in the right seat on the bus or pull the damn bus over and kick them out. And then with Ruthless Management of People and Profits, you're going to learn to fire fast, hire slow. And you're going to understand that every single team member, from the lowest level to the highest level team member, has a walking P&L above their head. Like, imagine if I looked at you and right over you was this holographic profit and loss report, and I could see if Hannah is making me money or losing me money, if you're an asset or a liability. And I look at this P&L report in 2 halves, money Are you making me money or losing me money? And then are you irritating me or bringing in good culture into my organization, right? Because you might have people who are profitable, they're making you money, they're not a financial liability, but they are a human liability in terms of they're banging half the sales team, or they're showing up late, or the culture is completely toxic because of this person. They're just as bad as someone who's not making you money, and then you have to fire fast and replace them slowly.
So good.
Yeah.
And I'm just now starting EOS. I start with my trainer, my EOS implementer, the end of the month, actually.
Okay.
So
If you're not happy with him or her, just reach out to Joan
okay.
and ask for an introduction to Brian Underhill. And I don't make a penny from him. Like,
Thank you.
Any of that. It's just he's one of those like slightly autistic. God, Brian, I hope you're not listening to this. Slightly autistic, goofy, and then he's mega tall, lanky, gangly, looks like giraffe arms and legs. And one day after about 3 EOS meetings, I'm like, hey, motherfucker, come here. He's like, what's going on? I go, now that we're on a break and my team's not in here, how much cocaine do you use? He goes, no, I have Tourette's. And he sticks his tongue out. He goes, look, I chew on my tongue and I snort. I'm like, motherfucker. All right. So other than that, like, he's a brilliant human being. And that just makes him cute anyway, lovable. So anyway, if you need a good EOS implementer, he's your man.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Bet.
That's a funny story.
Yeah. I swore that he was coked up and I was going to like kick him out of my company. Like, it turns out the guy's got like Tourette's.
Yeah. So part of what I'm also doing is building a personal brand.
Yeah.
And right now, a lot of time, energy, money, and attention is going into that. And I love, like this, I would do this 100 hours a week. I love this. And people are like, well, how are you monetizing? I'm like, I'm not doing it to monetize it right now, but it is part of the bigger vision of building a brand and having influence and being able to impact people's lives and being able to make money and build an empire. So did you build your companies first and become super successful first before you started building your personal brand? Or did you build it alongside it? And what role has that played in the building of your companies?
Yeah.
And what would you advise, like what time someone like me allocates to doing stuff like this, building the brand, producing the content versus focusing and grinding and like being in the business and building businesses?
If I were to go back to 28 years old, I would spend even more time building my brand, creating content, and building my network, and less time in the weeds. But I didn't know that, right? Years earlier, I should have hired a second in command, but I was like, this is my baby. No one can treat my baby like I can. No one knows the ins and outs. Guess what? All businesses are simple. It breaks down to 3 Ps: the product, whatever the product is, the people, everything from you on down, and then the processes. So if I've got a great product, I just need to hire good people who aren't retarded, who can run great processes. And as the business gets more complex, let's create a new process, right? When we had 100 locations at Fit Body Bootcamp, we had some simple processes. 300 locations, we added a few more processes in place. 500 locations, added more processes, and then had to get rid of some people because they weren't able to run the complex processes. So brought in better people to run the more complex processes, and things are going great, right? So it's product, people, processes. And as long as you can figure that out, then you go, all right, I can step out and become the visionary full time. It was in 2013 when I did a Spike TV reality show with Randy Couture, MMA UFC fighter. And do you remember the TV show Bar Rescue?
I don't watch TV.
Well, you ruined that one.
Sorry.
No worries. Someone in your audience remembers a TV show. I think it's still out there called Bar Rescue. This guy, John Taffer, they take this shitty dive bar that's like struggling, barely paying its bills. There's all this drama. And John Taffer, who knows how to make bars successful, goes in there. He's like, all right, the stool's got to be this high and the bar needs to look like this and lighting needs to be there and the windows need to be open and whatever. And he turns his bar around, right? So Spike TV started that, and the show's been running very successfully for many years. So then they were like, you know what other business like that can we turn around pretty quickly? Gyms. So they hire me and Randy Couture to do Gym Rescue. And so we did the pilot. Pilot blew up, took off, wonderful. So we start filming episodes. By episode number 3, Randy Couture gets a phone call from Sylvester Stallone, like, hey man, we want you in Expendables. He looks at me, he's like, buddy, like if I leave, the show's gone. I go, exactly. Should I just turn down Sylvester Stallone? I was like, that's a very bad idea. Go do Expendables. So he let the cast and crew know, and off he went. And I certainly didn't have the star power like he does to carry it. I'm the expert, and he's like the host. Right? And so because he's got the star power, that was the end of Gym Rescue. However, in those 4 episodes that aired in 2013, I saw how quickly people were like, oh my God, stopping me at places like, you're the guy at Fit Body Bootcamp, and you were like going into all these different gyms with Randy Couture and turning them around. And I was like, holy shit. Now, obviously in 2013, YouTube or Facebook or whatever, they were around, but they weren't thriving. Even before that, I had a blog, and I was blogging every day, and the comments on those blogs were blowing up, and I was giving away free report, direct response stuff to get email addresses, and I would always like build relationships with those people on my email list and time collapse the know, like, and trust factor, and then make them several offers, get them on the phone, put them in a mastermind, start a licensing program, whatever it was. And so when social media came around, and I saw at the same time from that Spike TV show what being on television could do for you, all of a sudden people were like, whatever it costs to pay you to help me turn my gym around, I'm down. No objections. No, I need to get to know you, like you, and trust you. Can I talk to some people that you've helped? Just, I saw you on TV and I want to pay you, okay? So I learned very quickly that personal brand and network matter. And if you can do that, it's friends making money with friends. This relationship right here, who knows, 3 years from now, we might be putting up a massive development somewhere together, right? I might be someone helping fund a massive development. I might make a connection for you because I'm like, you know what, Hannah does this and this friend wants to do that. Hey, here's a connection. It's always about friends making money with friends. And if you're in the weeds running your business, you're not looking up and out. You're looking down and in. And if you're looking down and in, you're going to miss all the opportunities that are up and out, like connections, network, content, brand, audience. And so, yeah, your instincts are right. Build your personal brand of the right people with the right message. Make as many connections as you can. Add as much value to the lives of those connections, those people that you're connected to, and then build so much money in the Goodwill bank account so that when you have to make a withdrawal, like, I'm like, yes, Hannah, I'll gladly help you because you've connected me to 10 people that have bought this many Fit Body Bootcamp locations, became coaching clients, or helped me get this other thing off the ground. How can I help you, right? Like, that's all I've done ever since 2010, because that's when I got into Joe Polish's mastermind, and that's when Joe was like, I realized how connected he was, and all he was doing things for others, expecting nothing back. I was like, this motherfucker's onto something. And I was like, hey, what is this that you do? He's like, well, the more I can build in the Goodwill bank account, the more withdrawals I can have in the future. And those withdrawals can show up in many ways. I can ask people to speak on my stage. I can ask people to co-author a book with me. I can ask people to let me borrow money to launch a new project or business or whatever. And I was like, holy smokes, he's onto something. And that's what I need to start doing. And so the more you do that, and the more you build your personal brand, the faster your empire is built. And when a disaster like the COVID comes, right, you can reach out to friends, again, friends making money with friends, and be like, hey, look, my industry right now, Fit Body Bootcamp, is crumbling. Well, that was 218 locations in not even 1 year, in 10 months, right? From March 16th, when I told all Fit Body Bootcamp owners to shut their doors for 2 weeks because we're going to flatten the curve. But because I'm a former communist, I come from a communist country, I don't trust the government, I turned to Bryce and I said, start making workouts that we can do beyond those 2 weeks via Zoom for all the clients across all the Fit Body Bootcamp locations, because if the clients leave the locations stop paying us franchise fees and we are out of business, right? Because I knew that was going to happen. I had a gut feeling it was going to go beyond the 2 weeks. Clearly it did. We only lost 210 locations. Unlike Orange Theory or F45, we did not sell off a single percentage of equity, and the vultures were circling, offering us pennies on the dollar, and we're like, hey, we're good, because we were already preemptively training clients via Zoom, in private Facebook groups, and doing everything that a Fit Body Bootcamp did right there in their homes. And because of that, and when I did need some help from friends who were connected to government, I was able to reach out to my friends that I had made Goodwill deposits in, and those friends made the right connections for me in all the different states that we have Fit Body Bootcamp locations in, because states like California, Pennsylvania, Michigan, New York, they were charging, finding us like $5,000 a day if you're open, right? And so my franchisees are like, dude, I've got like $15,000, $20,000 of fines racked up just this week. What do I do? I was like, don't worry, I know a guy who knows the mayor of your city. I'm gonna, that's how you can leverage relationships. And it was such a good thing to be able to do that and help my franchisees, who are at the end of the day, small business owners. They're not sitting at corporate office like I am. They're small business owners. And so it was really good to be able to help them with the connections that I've developed.
I love it.
Yeah.
So when you started the franchise, I mean, you mentioned you were on this TV show and people knew you. What was your process before you got to that level? Like, where did you, I guess, make your first million, or where was that break for you to really start to scale? Because it's so hard in the beginning when you're just getting started, to when you have more limited resources and you can't go hire all these C-suite executives and people that are way better than you, and you're still scrappy. Right. What did that process look like for you? And then what was that big break that you could actually start scaling?
Good point. I think it's a big gift you're giving your audience right now, have by asking that questions, because I can imagine your audience is sitting here going, all right, tough guy, well, you've got all this money, you've got all these connections, you can find leaders and money and start new businesses, and a leader quits, you can replace him with someone else. What do I do? So here's what I did. Way before Fit Body Bootcamp, I had started a gym brand called Premier Results. It was a personal training studio, probably 3 times the size of this room. And for your audience, this room is pretty small. It's just a tiny little studio that we're filming in. So it was probably like 1,200 square feet, my personal training studio called Premier Results, one-on-one personal training. My personal training client, who I was training him, I was a personal trainer at LA Fitness. His name is Jim Franco. So I was in my early 20s. He's in his 60s at the time. And Jim Franco's like, why don't you have your own personal training studio? I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about opening up a business like that. Like, where do I even begin? Do I buy the building? He goes, no, you lease it out, you rent it out. I go, do I buy the equipment? No, you lease that out. I don't know the marketing. I don't know any of that stuff, right? I just wanted to be a personal trainer and take a lot of steroids and train my clients. That was it. And at the time I was powerlifting, so all I really cared about was lifting heavy weights anyway. But Jim inspired me to open up a personal training studio. So I did. That one location became 2, 2 became 3, 3 became 4, then 5. One advice that Jim Franco gave me was, I don't know how much you or your audience know about personal training, especially back in the day, but personal training was sold by blocks of sessions. So you might buy 5, 10, or 15 sessions. And then once Hannah is done with her 10 sessions with me, then I have to put my sales hat back on. Like, hey, Hannah, this is your 9th session. Tomorrow's your 10th. Do you want to buy another 10? Now we're kind of friends and trainers. So you're like, I can do it on my own, right? I'm like, fuck. Now I got to go replace Hannah with someone else because I don't have that money anymore. And so Jim Franco's like, look, dude, you keep selling me 10 sessions at a time. Why don't you just put me on a extended program? I'm like, do you know how many hundreds of dollars you'd have to pay per month? He goes, I could afford it, and all your personal training clients could afford it because they make a lot of money. So it never dawned on me that my personal training clients make a lot of money and they could afford $600 to $800 a month to work with me. So when I started putting people on monthly recurring revenue, I was able to build up EFT, electronic fund transfer. When I was able to build that up, I did the same thing in my 5 gyms, Premier Results. Because I had clients on recurring revenue that was scheduled to come in every month, a very big brand of gyms that we're all familiar with, but because I signed an NDA, I can't share, came through and bought my 5 personal training gyms in San Diego, California. They didn't buy it because I had all these personal training clients. They bought it because of the receivables that I had. I had all the clients on a 12-month contract. Average client was paying $630 a month, and we had over 400 clients. So they bought the receivables from me, right? And had I only been selling 5 and 10 sessions at a time. So I share this with you because I just started off with 1 gym and that 1 personal training studio and hired a personal trainer. Then I had 3 or 4 or 5 trainers per gym. Before you know it, I sold my 5 gyms, and then I started coaching other gym owners, teaching them how to do the same. So the question was, how can someone else start if they don't have the means and the access right now? Be really good at the thing that you're going to do. Be so good that others who do what you do come to you and go, how do you do it? How do you raise capital? How do you find real estate deals to fund? Because you're going to be so good at it. And then you go, let me coach you. And then you could start a coaching business doing that. And through that coaching business, once I had enough coaching clients, I was like, would any of you want to just start using all my systems and we can call this thing Fit Body Bootcamp? So I turned my coaching clients that all had different gyms and different brands. My first 45 Fit Body Bootcamp locations were all former coaching clients who just converted their brand to a Fit Body Bootcamp. And that's how the whole thing took off.
That's so cool. And that's similar to Alex Hormozy's process, or did he do something similar with the gyms? And
gym launch, yeah.
Gym launch, yeah. But was it also from, did he do coaching and things like that?
Exactly. Yeah. His whole thing was, hey, I'm going to coach gyms on how to do this thing.
Yeah.
It was all about gym owners, like many small business owners, they think if I'm a great coach or a trainer and I build the gym, people will come. And then they're a great coach and a trainer, they have abs, but then they built the gym and no one comes, and then they look for marketing, sales, and processes. Yeah. And that's where they find someone like back in the day like me or Alex Hormozy or all these other people who do that kind of stuff. And those people exist in every industry because the lazy who don't want to create the processes will end up giving money to the not lazy who will create the processes and then charge you to deploy them.
And that's something that I want to do too, is I want to build a community. And do you know Pace Morby? I don't know if you,
I know Pace.
So he was on the show last week, and he's just another incredible person that I look up to, and he's built something so amazing. Serial entrepreneur, thousands of students in the community, massive companies, super down to earth, great relationships, all that type of stuff. And I want to build a community too. And he actually advised me, like, why? He's like, people are coming in the store, Hannah, and you're not selling anything. Like, I'm not even collecting emails, you know? And he's like, why people want to buy, but you're not selling. I'm just selling. I'm not through social media. I just have my businesses, and most of what I've done has been word to mouth and referrals and direct relationship, and like I'm a networker. So I'm just now getting into like the marketing, paid marketing and advertising and collecting emails and all that stuff.
That's how we scale, by the way.
Yeah, I'm learning that. Yeah. And so especially being in 100K with, you know, all like the really big players out there, I'm like, oh my God, they're spending $2 million a month on ads.
Right.
Like, okay, I got to start doing this.
Someone once asked me, they go, yeah, but I put up content, a lot of it goes viral. I figured out the formula to go viral. I'm like, dude, you wait for algorithms to help you go viral. I spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every week across all my companies, and I make sure that all my ads convert. I'm fishing with dynamite. You're fishing with the fishing pole. They're like, oh my God, I got it. Like, when you throw money at paid ads that convert, it becomes infinitely scalable. Unless you're like in some micro industry, like whatever, some odd industry. But in the industry that you're in, it's literally endless. And if you can figure out the formula, the market message media, the right ad to the right market of people with the right source of content, like this thing is going to be over. It's like fishing with dynamite. And if you're able to do that, then you start having first world problems, scale associated problems, which remember we talked about earlier. People are like, oh, I can't wait till I have a $1 billion company. Cool. $1 billion company comes with $1 billion headaches, but I'd rather have $1 billion headaches than third world problems, which are, I can't even keep my lights on.
Right. Well, I'll go back to the community thing and then I want to go back to marketing.
Sure.
So another thing I want to do alongside the podcast and the personal brand and the obviously brokerage and the lending and all the things is I want to build a community and I want to help other people do it because people reach out to me all the time and that's where I get my joy. That's what fills my cup, is helping other people and then learning from other people. But then it's another thing is like, do I build this empire first and like really get the lending company going and scaled and dialed in before I get distracted by this other thing? Or is that also a compliment to go alongside?
It's easy to see a lot of things as compliments and like, oh, that will help that and this will help this, and just build this one lending company. I'm telling you, build this one. If you were a coaching client of mine that was paying me $100,000 for my Domination Year coaching program, I would tell you to what Stephen King, who's a great author, wrote one book on how to write books. So the man that's got like more New York Times bestselling books than anyone else wrote a book on how to write books. And the big takeaway from that book is be willing to kill your darlings, is what he said. And he went on to say, kill the words, sentences, paragraphs, and pages that don't add value to the reader's life. If you're going to have a 200-page book, it's going to be that much more difficult for them to read. If you have a 100-page book, because you killed the darlings, all the fun little side stories that you might want to put your life story in because we're egotistical humans, however, it's not going to add value to the reader's life, they're more likely to read the 100-page book, which means they're more likely to do business with you because they're not going to get through the 200-page book. And so the same thing applies here. Like, be willing to kill your darlings. The reason Fuel Hunt, the apparel company, blew up by like 50x in a year and a half, they had almost 50 different logos. They call them badges, right? So think about a badge that says whatever, kill your distractions, and a badge that says pain is power. And so each one of those, small, medium, large, extra large, and then at least two colors, black and white or black and gray. And so the inventory is ridiculous. I'm like, guys, what are the top 10 bestsellers? They're like, oh, these ones. I'm like, cool. Kill the rest. What? Yeah, kill the rest. I go, all your top sellers say sold out. There's only like mediums left on the website because all the larges and extra larges are sold out, and y'all don't have the money, but you have all the stock of all this other bullshit. So sell all the rest for dirt cheap and then just make more of the top 10. For a whole 6 months, all I had them do is just recycle the money and make more of the top 10. And then I was like, now I can create an 11th shirt and a 12th and a 13th. And now we obviously have a big thing, et cetera. But it was about killing all the darlings to focus on the things that matter. And if you're able to kill the darlings and the distractions and the opportunities, because once in a lifetime opportunities come at least twice a year. And so when people are like, man, there's an opportunity, I got to take it because Pace offered this, or, Ballantyne offered that, more opportunities will come. It's singularity of focus and impulse control are the number one and the number two factors to scale the business faster than ever. The third one being your team members, like who's in the company with you running it. And so if you could have singularity of focus, then you scale that thing, make freedom money, and then you start introducing new businesses, new companies, new leaders, new processes, and it just blows up.
Okay. And then back to the marketing.
Yeah.
Because the one time 4 years ago, I hired a marketing agency, signed a 12-month, $100,000 contract,
Oof.
and I didn't get one closing. So I was like, fuck marketing.
That's the price we pay, right?
Yeah,
Remember
yeah.
I said, how much shit are you willing to eat? That's a beautiful shit sandwich for a whole year.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a shit sandwich. And I don't know. I didn't know marketing.
No,
you
of
know, I'd
course.
read one or two books, but I'm, you know, busy and crazy. I'm like, I'm hiring you.
You're
you
an
do
agency,
it.
yeah.
Yep. So now I'm starting marketing, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
so afraid. I've interviewed so many agencies and so many people, and like the ones that work for all the big names that I know, and then that are crazy amounts of money, and then the ones that are, you know, smaller, just trying to get their feet off the ground, that are
Mm-hmm.
more dedicated, and then I don't know who to pick. And then also, like, do I hire in-house? And then how do I interview if I do hire in-house? So what would you recommend if you're just starting to run ads, and who do you partner with on
If
that?
you're just starting out, I would probably hire an agency that comes from someone trusted. So, you know, like all these people that you've networked with,
Yeah.
they've probably referred agencies. What I would say is, let's say one of them is Joe Polish. We're just going to use Joe Polish. Hey, Joe Polish referred you, and I trust Joe Polish, and so I'm sure you guys will do a great job. However, I'm not looking to sign a contract beyond 90 days. I'll sign a 90-day contract, but nothing beyond that. However, I'm sure you guys will do great. You guys will perform, and when you do, I'll sign a 6-month contract. When that performs and it kicks ass, I'll sign whatever the heck you want me to, and I'll talk about you from the treetops. Like, I will let everyone know that you guys are the agency to work with. And that's what you have to do to hold their feet to the fire, because they may have worked really well for Joe, but that doesn't mean they're going to work well for you. Because what I've learned through all the different companies that I own or have equity in, a ad agency that runs ads for supplement company is really bad at running ads for apparel, and even worse at running ads for Fit Protractor, our software company. There are dedicated agencies that specialize in different industries, and they know the trends, they know the processes, they know the ads, they know what the scroll stoppers are, they know all the things that they have what's known as tribal knowledge, because they only specialize in software, only apparel, right? And so when I had Fuel Hunt, Joey and Drew, the founders of Fuel Hunt Apparel, when I had them interview agencies, all of them want a 12-month agreement. And I was like, dude, 90 days. If 90 days, and then, hey, our partner is Bedros Keuilian, and if after 90 days this thing blows up, he will talk about you from the rooftops. And you have to hold their feet to the fire, and they'll do it. If they're good at what they do, they'll do it. Of course, they want a 12-month agreement with you because it just makes sense. But you don't know if they're going to work for you just because they work for Bob over there. And so you have to be able to tread lightly and have a ripcord that you can exit. You know, 90 days is less painful than 12 months.
Yeah, for sure.
And then ultimately you'd want to bring in-house. So as you get bigger,
I was just going to ask.
yeah, you bring people in-house. So all my companies now, with the exception of one, are all in-house ad buyers.
At what ad spend do you think it makes sense to bring it in-house?
If you're starting to spend more than 20 grand a month,
On the ad spend
Yeah.
or the man? Yeah.
on the ad spend, on the actual money that you're running on ads, then just pay someone 6 to 7 grand to come in there and teach them how and do it for you. In fact, I forget the dude's name. He's really good at running YouTube ads. Dean introduced me to him, Dean Graziosi, and he was running many of our YouTube ads for my coaching business. When I was ready to bring someone in-house, I'm like, bro, I'm going to have to part ways with you. However, I want to pay you 10 grand to 15 grand if you will come out to HQ and teach my in-house person. He's like, but I'm like, I'm leaving anyway. So one more final 10 to 15 grand, plus you'll get referrals from me, or peace out, and then I have to go find now someone to train this person that I'm hiring. And he was kind enough to come and train. So you'll also do that. And that's kind of, you're going to hire an agency, and when you find the right agency, you're going to go, hey, down the line, I'm probably going to have an in-house person. And when I do, I'd love to pay you guys to come train that person. You just kind of plant that seed. Because the reality is, if you grow big enough, it just makes sense that it's in-house, because one person dedicated to your brand is going to do a far better job than when they try and scale by hiring people in Poland and Pakistan or whatever, because, you know, they're based out of wherever, Scottsdale, but they're going to hire people offshore because to run your ads because it's cheaper, right? And I don't know what the guy in a mud hut sitting in Pakistan is going to do for my ads.
Yeah.
That may not be politically correct, but that's the truth.
I love it. Yeah, no, it just brings back PTSD from all those
Yeah.
experiences and trying to hire all the VAs in,
Yeah.
in the Philippines, and the chickens in the background on the
Yeah,
phone.
which is fine and cool, but
Yeah.
Again, if they can't perform, like, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah, I love the lending company because I see a larger EBITDA multiple because there's so many avenues of it, and you could be an intermediary, you could be a direct lender. There's very little licensing requirements, like there would be in a brokerage. Brokerages are not worth anything on the real estate side, but and then part of building the personal brand is that's a national reach of people. So I struggle with the concept of just focus local when I'm building a national brand, but also it's a new company. So what is your advice on that? Focus local and turn down all the leads that come in from everywhere else, or because I already have the ability to be national because I set it up that way, do I actually just start to build a national brand?
I started going national. Yeah. With social media now, it makes sense that you go national. If we were having this conversation 10 years ago, I would say start local. But here, I would say absolutely go national because you can grow just as fast through social media. And if you need someone local somewhere else, let's say in Kentucky, one quick little Google search and you could find the right person anyway to refer someone and take a commission.
Yeah.
Right? And so you got that there as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's what's so nice about not having much like licensing or restrictions is you can do that. And then what about, for instance, like loan originators? And these are generally commission-based roles, but it's very hard to find talent for those roles, especially for a startup.
Yep.
And so I guess, I don't know, how do you figure out your comp plans? Like what are the appropriate comp plans for different roles in your company?
Well, I mean, if they have anything to do with sales or marketing, they're going to be incentivized with commission, right? Because we want them to eat what they kill. If you're a closer, or if you're saying you're a great marketer, then yeah, we'll give you some kind of a base. That base is just enough for you to eat like canned tuna fish.
Yeah.
And that's it. The rest of it, you have to earn. Right? So the compensation might be anywhere from 10% to 15% commission on the deals. If the deal has some kind of recurring attached to it, like Fit Body Bootcamp has royalties, it's a franchise, that sales rep might get a, 0.5% of royalties coming to them, or 0.25% of royalties. And when their royalties, almost like an insurance broker, right? When the number gets this big, then your royalties, your percentage of royalties increase. But most everybody else, other than so marketers, closers, and then leaders get compensated by commissions and bonuses. Most everybody else, support people, accountants, bookkeepers, graphic guys, web guys, things like that, they're going to get paid by a salary and bonuses if they exceeded expectation. People go, well, how do you structure what that bonus is? Like whatever you feel like paying them. Like there is no, right? It's just whatever you feel like paying them. Like if they killed it with that website design, like the copywriter did a great job writing copy, but if the design of the site is clunky and the conversions suck, well, you're just getting paid your base. But if you killed it because you research and you're like, what is Russell Brunson's highest performing website, and I'm going to make this look like that in terms of flow and et cetera, and conversions are crushing it, and you got it done a couple weeks early, here's a bonus for you, my friend. Here's a $2,000 bonus for you on top of that, because I also know one of the drawbacks of building a brand is your people are always being recruited. My assistant Joan is always being recruited. Bryce Henson is always being recruited. Jeff Rosenquist is always being recruited. Brittany Carter is always being recruited. Like I could even throw their names out and let these people go and recruit because I pay them so well and I've got them handcuffed to my business because I give them all phantom equity. So there's no way they're leaving. And I treat them well. I treat them like family. But you will have people trying to poach your own people. That's how the game is played. So also be willing to deal with that.
So that was going to be my next question about phantom equity or real equity in general. Like how do you know when to give that up? Because some people, for instance, an integrator, you're second in command, like they're going to want something. How do you know who those right roles are to give equity to? And is it phantom? Is it actual? And like, how do you make those decisions and what roles are they?
Yeah, the only time I would give actual equity is if one, they come in with money, like they buy equity, or if they come in at ground zero. Right? So we're just starting out and I'm like, hey, Hannah, I got this great idea in the lending space and I'm going to front the money to start this thing. And then I can't pay you much. I'm going to give you like, what's the bare minimum you need to live? Okay, that amount, great. I'm going to give you that, but I'm also going to give you 10% real equity. Fair enough? Yes. That's the only time. With Fit Body Bootcamp, it was making hundreds of millions when Bryce came on board as my second in command. First VP, then CEO, right? And so I gave him 10% phantom equity. And he's like, he had never heard the term phantom equity, nor had my lawyer, because I made it up. And he was like, what the fuck is phantom equity? I go, well, 100% of Fit Body Bootcamp belongs to me. We have this side agreement right here that says that you get 10% of the company, phantom equity, because it's not real, until we take the company to a sale. And when we take the company to a sale and you stay with them for at least 2 years, if the buyer wants you to stay, that 10% is yours. Now, if you help me take the company to a sale and they're like, we got our own CEO, we don't need your CEO. Great, you get that 10% upon close of the deal. I go, but if you take a crack habit, a heroin habit, you go off the deep end and I have to fire you, then you're gone and all you got was your salary and that's it. So salary. And Bryce's question, and it was rightfully so, he goes, so what happens if like 6 months before selling the company, you just get rid of me? Well, Bryce, that's why we have this paperwork in place, but more than that, there's a mutual trust, right? And so this kind of goes back to a lesson that I teach often on my show, which is your reputation. And I've got phantom equity with 3 key principles in my companies, all different companies, Fit Body Bootcamp, my coaching business, and Truly Supplements. 3 key people have phantom equity. It's because of my reputation. They trust me. They've known of me for years before they ever started working for me. They know that when we get to the exit that they will get paid. And all of those businesses I had started years before they came on board. So it wouldn't make sense to give them real equity. So I would always advise you to not give real equity unless they bring some kind of magical benefit to the relationship that you couldn't go get yourself. For example, because again, I could sound very hypocritical here, I take equity in businesses without ever giving them money. And those businesses are growing and doing well. And I take equity and we grow them bigger. But what do I have? Well, I've got a big following. That following buys what I promote to them. I've got a network of people who will wear the shirt, take the supplements, use the software, and therefore tell their people, right? So I've got a network. I've got an audience of rabid buyers on an email list, on a text list, on social media platforms, podcast platforms, and I've got allies who have audiences who will help me promote my thing as long as that thing is not competitive to their thing, right? And so I do take real equity without giving a dollar, but that's because I bring something magical. So for example, if there was some business that if Oprah Winfrey talked about, like it would automatically become $1 billion business, and I started that business and I'm 5 years in and it's doing about 50 million a year, and Oprah's like, hey, I'd like 50% equity. Okay, here it is, all yours, cost you nothing, honey. Because you're Oprah Winfrey, you've got the audience, the product is a perfect fit for that audience. When you say go buy it, it becomes $1 billion company and then we exit. I do that all day long. But short of a relationship like that, you want to always keep it as a phantom equity, which is why it's important to keep your personal brand and reputation untarnished and clean so that no one could ever say shit about you. Because if Bryce was to go and ask 50 people that have worked with me, Bedros ever screwed you? Has ever made a promise and didn't follow up? If even one of them said, yep, he'd be like, bro, I don't want to do phantom equity, so I'm not going to be your CEO. And that'd be the end of that.
Yeah. And you give phantom equity to your CFO, and who's your third? You said 3 key principles?
Yeah, 3 individuals. So,
okay.
Yeah, Joan, my assistant, who has been with me for 10 years, has a small piece of equity in the coaching business. Jeff Rosenquist has phantom equity in Truly Supplements. He's the VP. And then Bryce. So all my leaders have equity in the businesses that they run. And I think that's a fair way to do it, but it's phantom equity. Now, could that convert into real equity? Sure. It felt like, man, I want to buy more equity and now I've got the money and I want to buy more equity and I felt like selling it and taking some money off the table. Sure, I'd be more than willing to do that. If Bryce says, hey, I want 30% equity, and this time I'm willing to buy it for whatever the company's valued at before we go and sell it, right? Sure, man, here's what it's valued. So go ahead and pay me X and you can get 20% more and off we go. But phantom is always the best way that I found because they didn't put skin in the game. You've already been around long enough and making money. So all the hardest parts are done of the business. They just need to run the people and the processes, and therefore phantom equity is plenty for them.
Okay. And then when you're growing all these things, your personal brand, your relationship, your friends and family, your mental health, your physical health, your fitness, and then continuing to build an empire, how do you time manage everything? Like, what are your non-negotiables in your day? And how do you time block to make sure that you are elevating all of those things and not going too heavy on one or the other? And
right.
What does that look like?
Yeah. So delegate, motivate, sell, DMS. 15 years now I've been doing DMS. And I learned that, got to give credit where credit is due, from Jim Franco, that personal training client that I had who encouraged me to start my personal training gyms. He says, look, anything else you do other than delegate, motivate, and sell is wasted time, wasted effort, wasted money. And he's absolutely right. And so on my Google Calendar, Joan, who I believe you spoke with to set this whole thing up, like, I didn't set it up because if I did, I'd never make it out here. I'd be in the wrong city, on the wrong plane, doing the wrong thing. Like, I'm horrible at that. So I don't, non-negotiables. I don't buy plane tickets, hotel. I don't book hotels. I don't reserve cars or car services or any of that stuff. If it's on my calendar, it's put there by Joan and I execute on it. And then on my calendar, all the things on it are things that are delegate, motivate, sell. What category would this fall into? Selling. What am I doing? I'm selling myself to your audience. I'm selling the concepts that I believe in that if they take action on will make them more money, right? Just because I say go do EOS and retraction doesn't mean they will. But if I'm like, here's how it changed my life, I'm selling your audience, right? So everything I do is I'm either delegating taking it off my plate and giving it to someone else who's more capable to do it, motivating my team members to do it and to keep doing it and stay on board and don't quit because I love you and I don't want to lose you and for all those things, right? Because they're being poached, and I do run all my people in the red, and so I teach them to be very resilient. So delegate, motivate, and sell. And then the things that are on my calendar have to do with delegate, motivate, and sell. And everything is time blocked. So the first 4 hours of the morning is mine. And then if I have coaching calls that I'm going to do, all my coaching calls are back to back. They're 30-minute coaching calls with like 15-minute breaks in between. That way, if I have to go over or if I have to take a bathroom break in between or eat something, I have that opportunity to do like 4 coaching calls, 6 coaching calls, all back to back. And then all my meetings at the end of the day are all stacked back to back. And by having everything time blocked that way, I'm not going from a meeting to a Zoom to a coaching call to a whatever, to a podcast, and then back to a coaching call, because in the process of shifting gears, you lose a lot of momentum. And I don't want to lose momentum. I don't want decision fatigue. For the first time in a long time, I bought a brand new pair of jeans, Mavi brand jeans. I have 9 pairs of Barbell brand jeans. There's some variation of gray, dark gray, or black, right? And that's because I don't want decision fatigue. All my shirts are Fuel Hunt shirts. And that's one, because I co-own the company, and 2, I don't want decision, and they're all dark colors, because then it'll match with the dark color jeans, and that's that. I don't want decision fatigue. I don't want to have to shift gears and lose momentum, because we all have the same amount of time. And then I'll ruthlessly say no to everything. There's a broken light bulb in my office at HQ. I just have to text Joan or whoever, the maintenance guy of the building, to come and change it. Do I have the capacity to change a light bulb? Absolutely. Is it worth my time? Probably not. Do I know how these microphones work? Nope. I just walk into the studio and start filming, right? I got my content, but I don't edit it. I don't film it. I don't go to the grocery store. I don't wash my cars. I don't book my hotels. I don't book the flights. I say no to a lot of things so that I could say yes to the 3 things that matter: delegate, motivate, and sell. Because Joan could find the restaurant that I need to eat at tonight or tomorrow or wherever I go next. She can. Me wasting time to find the restaurant and then instead not showing up prepared to this could screw the whole thing up, right? Like, I can't have Joan come and do this podcast while I'm looking to see where I'm going to eat, but I can have Joan figure out where I'm going to eat while I prepare for this and come and crush it for you. And so if people are ruthless about their time and they realize that everyone wants to take your time, just 5-minute phone call real quick, can we do a FaceTime? No, fuck off, and fuck off. That's how ruthless you have to be to get to that level. There is another side of me that I just want to be barefoot and go hug trees as well. And there's a duality in me that my kids will see and people closest to me will see. But for the most part, if you're on the battlefield of business and you're looking to make hundreds of millions or get to billions and beyond, it is a pretty ruthless way that you have to manage your time, because as you grow your brand, people are like, I bet Hannah has something that I could use. Could I just take you out to lunch? To pick your brain? Do you know how many people want to pick my brain apart? No, you can't take me out to lunch. I don't want to go work out with you. We can't have coffee. None of that stuff. Not you personally, but I'm just saying, like, when people will DM and message and whatever. And so you have to ruthlessly protect your time. You have to structure everything. You have to time block everything. I sleep and wake up at the same time 7 days a week, because I don't want my circadian rhythm all fucked up. One of my coaching clients, Dr. Amy Shaw, who's a gangster. She lives out here in Scottsdale, has a massive following. Her second book's going to be a New York Times bestseller as well. I structured hers and Gabrielle Lyon's book launch, and they both became New York Times bestsellers. But she's all about circadian rhythm, and she makes a lot of sense. Why on a Friday night or a Saturday am I going to stay up late, get drunk, and then do the same thing Sunday, and then come Monday, my busiest day, now my sleep pattern's all fucked up. I'm not thinking right. I'm a little foggy-headed during my busiest day. Like, I don't want to go into battle like that. So to me, I have a pretty boring life, but I like the boring life that I have because it gives me access to who and what I need and the freedom to do what I want with who I want for as long as I want. And I realize I only have a finite amount of time on this planet, and access and freedom is my highest currency.
Yeah, one of my mentors that I mentioned earlier, he says that on the arrow, what kills the animal, and it's the very tip of the spear. And all your activities, you want to be moving closer and closer to the very tip of the
Bingo.
spear.
Yeah, that's a really good way to say it. It's a beautiful metaphor.
So the last question, I want to talk about your book real quick. So your book is Man Up, and it's all about taking ownership and cutting out excuses, and just to level up in business and life and dominate, build an empire, and all those things. So what was like the best example in your life where you had to man up and you had to cut out excuses and really like get your shit together to transform?
Yeah, good example. So I've always had this gift of connection, and I got that from my dad. My dad knows how to connect with anyone. He taught the KGB, which is the equivalent equivalent of the FBI in the Soviet Union. He talked the KGB out of arresting him. They had heard that we were going to escape the Soviet Union. They had heard, they even had some evidence. And he sat them down at the kitchen table, got drunk with them, talked them out of arresting us. And then 2 weeks later, we're off to Italy, from Italy to the United States. So my dad has the gift of gab. That is factory installed in me. Like, I know how to connect and influence people. That also made me a great marketer, because I was a great marketer and I am a great marketer. I could write copy and make offers really easily. So I always counted on that when I started my coaching business back in the day, which then later became, then I started Fit Body Bootcamp. Like, I was really good at marketing, but as the company grew and I had more people working for me, I wasn't as disciplined. And so the breaking point for me was my lack of discipline. I could stay awake till 2 a.m, watch TV, goof off, eat bagels, do whatever I want, because I was stress eater. I was an emotional and stress eater. Now I'm not. Now I'm a badass. But I would do all that till 2 a.m. Then I'd wake up at like 5 or 6 a.m. and I just crush whatever marketing campaigns I need to do and just flood new customers in. However, I wasn't a good leader. I wouldn't show up to meetings on time, and when I would show up, I was unprepared, and because of that, I would start feeling anxiety, and all that led to a massive panic attack in 2013. Remember I said pre-2013, post-2013? I had a fucking panic attack so bad, I thought I was having a heart attack, and I talk about that in my book, Man Up. The title of that chapter is called The Morning of My Heart Attack, because I thought I was having a heart attack. I was 38 years old, I'm in my guest house, and I'm like, holy fuck, I'm up here in my guest house, and I left my shoes up there the night before. I play the drums, and I've got a drum set in the guest house. And I left my shoes up there, went back to the house barefoot, across the pool deck. And so in the morning, I'm like, fuck, where are my tennis shoes? They're upstairs in the guest house. Ran across the pool deck to get my shoes, bend down to pick up my shoes, and all of a sudden my chest gets tight, tunnel vision, heart's racing, sweaty palms, both arms are like tingling. And I remember reading somewhere, like in some high school like health class, that like if an arm tingles, you're having a heart attack. So I'm like, fuck, both arms are tingling. This is the big one. This is how I go. And I remember thinking in that moment, like, this sucks. I'm 38 years old. I'm building this what's going to be an empire. I accepted death very quickly. And I was like, I felt very sad for Chloe. At the time, she was like 6 or 7 years old. I was like, who's going to walk Chloe down the aisle? And I felt really bad for Andrew. He was 9 years old. Who's going to teach him to be a modern day knight? Like, those were the two big things that I wanted to do for my babies. Anyway, long story short, it's so weird. You accept death and you stumble down the staircase, because my theory was that if I stumbled down the staircase, someone, the lawn guy, the pool guy, someone's going to find me, and they're going to find me early, and it won't be at the end of the day in the guest house where I'll be bloated and ugly, and my family will be like, oh my God, dad looks horrible, right? Mm-hmm. And that'll be traumatic for them. Like that, and while I thought I was having a heart attack, those were the thoughts going through my mind. So as I stumbled down the staircase, I don't know if it was the fresh air, I don't know if it was the movement, all of a sudden all these feelings went away, and I'm left in a sweaty puddle. I was like, holy shit, I think I just dodged a heart attack. Went to the doctor the next day, checked my heart, your heart's good, think you had a panic attack. So that was the beginning of me becoming more disciplined. I would emotionally eat back then, also to fall asleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, because I would drink a lot of coffee and energy drinks throughout the day. I had a bicep reconstruction. I tore my bicep from powerlifting and had a big bottle of Vicodin left. I have a high pain tolerance, so I didn't use the Vicodin for its intended purpose. I ended up using it to fall asleep at night. And when one Vicodin wasn't enough, I would take 2 or 3. When 2 or 3 weren't enough, it was like 3, 4, 5 Vicodins plus some NyQuil on top of that to fall asleep. And so imagine now being poorly disciplined, a bad leader on top of that, and then having food addiction, using food as your emotional crutch because your company's growing, because you're a genius at writing ad copy and creative and things like that. But you can't lead, manage, and create systems, LMS, if your life depends on it. And so that's when I had to turn pro. It was after that big panic attack. And so the book is Man Up is the brutal, honest truth about what it takes to succeed in life as a high performer. I don't care if you want to be the best husband, if you want to be the best wife, if you want to be the best next Mother Teresa, if you want to save the planet, or if you want to build a company that's going to do $1 billion. Like, there's 6 pillars of entrepreneurial and personal leadership that starts with you as the leader and ends with a team of high performers, not employees. Employees will clock out early, clock in late, and do the bare minimum. A team is ferociously focused on winning because they know what winning looks like. They've been told the vision by the leader. And so the 6 pillars of entrepreneurial and personal leadership I've outlined in that book. It's exactly what I used to change my life from 2013 to, in 2 years, 2013 to 2015, my company hockey sticked. I stopped doing the Vicodin, stopped the NyQuil, stopped the emotional eating, started going to sleep on time, and did everything that I became congruent with the man that I wanted to be, and wouldn't you know it, my whole life hockey sticked. And so that's what Man Up is all about, but it's the brutal, honest truth. I've had many people read the book and say, I don't want to be an entrepreneur, and I'm like, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with being an intrapreneur. Go work for someone who's driven, who's crazy, who's willing to take the risks, and help them achieve their dreams. And somewhere within their dreams, as Ed Milet says, there's a piece of your dream in there. Right? But you don't have to take those risks. You don't have to be up till 2 in the morning, because there will be nights. During the pandemic of 2020, we were having 2 L10 meetings a day. We went from 1 a week to 2 level 10 meetings a day. Because how do you tell hundreds of franchisees around the world how to run their gyms? Places like Texas and Florida were like, fuck, work out, do whatever you want, go lick doorknobs. Right? And then in California, Michigan, Pennsylvania, we're getting fined left and right. So make no mistake about it. Like, there was plenty of days that I didn't sleep, like in 2020, because we're like in the war room planning, strategizing, trying to figure out what our next move is. And if you're not dialed in mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, you're going to get fucked up when the next pandemic comes. And there's always, as Tony Robbins says, winter is just around the corner. It's always coming. You just don't know when.
Winter's coming.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm excited. I'm going to be at your event. So it's May 31st.
May 31st, BK Live at the Grove Theater in Anaheim. It's going to be all about money, meaning, and self-mastery. If anyone wants to level up in those 3 areas, that's where they want to go to.
Perfect. And we'll put your link in
Thank
the bio
you so
so
much.
people
I
can
appreciate that.
sign up. Awesome. Thank you so much, Bedros.
Thank you.